Today's podcast is sponsored by Field Agent Canada. If I'm online trying to figure out what to buy, I really like the products that I'm looking at to not only have a good number of reviews to help me make my decision, but I really wish they would be current.
Listen, it's really hard to do that. As a marketer that has worked with a bunch of brands, we're always asking for people to leave reviews, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Then they should be using Field Agent to get reviews on those items. It's inexpensive, it's fast, and Field Agent can do all the work to make sure your online items have enough reviews, and then new reviews will be added each month.
Can Field Agent reviews be placed on items on my brand website as well as with the retailer?
Come on, Phil. Of course they can. You know they can. You just need to supply a list of products and where you want the reviews to be posted. Jeff and his team take care of the rest and get those reviews up and running.
I have to say, the guys at Field Agent, they do love working with companies of all sizes, big and small. So you're going to get great service. And then, if you need 100 reviews or you need 1,000 reviews, 10,000 reviews, these guys can manage that. If you need online reviews, you need Field Agent.
www.fieldagentcanada.com. Hey, welcome to This Commerce Life, an unscripted podcast that focuses on the stories behind small and independent Canadian retail and Canadian CPG.
What we try and do is deliver or pull out the story of our guests and give them to you. The good, the bad, the ugly of retail and CPG in Canada. We're filling a need because we think that retail is hard on the best of days, but it's also a wonderful, wonderful place to grow up and make your living.
We also think that the industry, nor the people that inadvertently find themselves in the industry, really understand the industry at all. They don't really understand what goes on behind the scenes.
So listen to us, Phil and Kenny. We'll unravel it for you. We'll give you the story. We'll give you the story behind the story.
Yep.
Perfect. Excellent. Everything's going good. We're finishing the day, and I was, ready to rumble with the podcast.
Rumble even, holy geez,
Like
easy.
You see that? Ready to rumble.
It's not that exciting.
Exactly. That was great. Meeting you, Kenny. That was really brief, and that was really good. Yeah, I had a pleasure also to discuss with Sylvain. He mentioned. One or two good things about the podcast. So I haven't had the time to, the pleasure to meet you, Phil.
Yeah,
were you in Vancouver?
No, I'm actually based in Toronto. So I'm out in Vancouver a lot, but I'm based in Toronto. So I wasn't out there that week, so I didn't wind up making it.
Yeah.
And we only talked for a couple minutes. Like we didn't have a lot of time. I think it was more that
there were so many people, man. So many people there, busy. And very good conversations. So that was good. That was busy. That was really busy.
Who introduced us?
That was you know what? Give me 5 seconds. I'm going to remember.
It's okay because Phil asked me, and I said I think it might have been Christina or Laura.
No, it wasn't Christina. Not. It wasn't Laura. It was Candice.
Candice did it.
Candice.
That's right, because she was all excited. Okay.
Exactly. The way Candice does is, hey, Tanguy, come here, Phil. No, Kenny, come here. Okay. And then, hey, you guys need to talk to each other. He does this, he does that. Okay, go ahead, talk.
I love it.
Because it's funny because Phil's asking today, who is this? I said, I met him at the show. He goes, well, who introduced? I said, I don't remember.
That happened so fast.
I do not remember. I said, it must have been Christina or Laura because they're sort of in this space.
Yeah.
But I could not remember. That
was Candice. I was actually grabbing my lunch and going back to the booth, right? Because we had a booth there. And then I stumbled across Candice and she said, hey, you know what? Come on. I'm going to introduce you to someone very interesting.
I was looking at your, I was surprised I shouldn't be surprised at this point, but the number of shared connections that we have, and then across so many, from guys like Jiren,
there you go.
that we know, and then
there's so many people that have been on the podcast that we're connected with. I thought, surprised we've never connected anywhere else in this industry.
And then people that
like I know, but are odd tangents now that I'm here. Like Robert Rochon,
Right. Right.
Robert was and I were at Danone together at the same time, and then
Okay.
weirdly enough, like you're connected to Suzette,
Yes.
who's at
Absolutely.
Walmart. She was a student of mine at Centennial College.
Okay. Okay.
So just like the world is like this weird
Small world, man. Small world.
The world is so small, so
Yeah.
small. You know what? I've noticed that the food industry is a big one, and it's a very small one.
So small.
So
Yeah.
small.
It really is. I don't think people really appreciate that. Is that
Yeah.
it is, to your point, this is a very, very large industry.
Yeah.
And yet, like, you got to be really careful because, like, it's so interconnected. It's
Absolutely. You know,
crazy.
I was at a trade show in Orlando. That was the SQFI Unite. Then I went to Chicago. Then I went on this one. And when I start connecting with people, hey, I saw you at the Chicago one. Hey, we do this, we do that. And then I realized we have the exact same connection in every trade shows. The exact same connection.
That's so funny, right?
That's pretty
So
funny.
funny.
Right? That's what it is. That's
Yeah.
the food industry.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's yeah, honestly, it's just so interesting, to kind of see all these connections. And then it's weird, right? Because I think you get used to like connections being in certain places or certain circles, and then
Yes.
all of a sudden when they collide, it's a little bit mind bending, right? Because
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's one statistic that says if you go in any room where nobody knows each other, they have about one connection, only one connection between everybody, right? Or maximum
actually,
two connections.
it's crazy, right? Like, it really is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually before that we meet today at the podcast, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he runs a bakery operation, tortilla operation. And I told him that I was going to go to a podcast. Say, hey, you know what? If it's good, let me know. Let me know. Give my name there because I said, okay, no problem. You never know, right? And then
No,
we're going
you
to
just
realize
don't
that
know.
maybe he's a friend of your friend.
Yeah.
Is he in town? Like, are you in Vancouver, right, Tanguy? Or are you?
No. I'm in Ottawa. I'm actually in a very small city called Gatineau. I don't know if you heard of Gatineau.
Yeah.
You know Gatineau?
Yeah, I know Ottawa. So yeah, I know Gatineau. Yeah.
You know what, Phil? You just became my best friend because
Wait.
I'm trying to think of the hockey players.
No,
who've come out of
everybody
Gatineau.
knows Gatineau.
whenever, well,
Well, it's
I
a
don't
hockey
know.
town too, eh?
Yeah, well, in Ottawa, in Gatineau, I don't know, maybe, but whenever
There
I
are
go in
some
trade
players.
show, when I say Gatineau, they don't know. Then I say Ottawa, they
Really?
say yes, we know Ottawa. Okay, well, okay,
Well, Gatineau's like the cousin, right? So it's like right over the bridge, So
exactly, exactly, it's just right off the bridge. Yeah. But we do have an office in Toronto. I have my colleague that you met. I don't know if you met him, Kenny, at the booth. He's in the in the GTA area in Kitchener.
Oh, okay.
I think you're the only one I met.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have a colleague there in Kitchener. I have actually two colleagues in Kitchener.
So you're based out of Ottawa. Okay, got it.
Yes,
Cool.
out of Gatineau.
Out of
Now that you know Gatineau.
Yes, out of Gatineau. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
You're almost making it off the list, Phil.
Yeah, you see?
Almost making it off the list. You were that close to being on the good list, and then you almost blew it there.
No. He's still there. Come on.
Oh, Phil will always be on that list. Don't worry, we know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think what we'd love, if you wouldn't mind, like, so because we've just met now, but do you mind like introducing yourself and then tell us what you do? We're curious about kind of where you come from and how you got to doing what you do. We'll kind of let you do the intro because I think the audience will also love. Our audience will definitely be interested in what you guys do and why you do it for sure.
Especially our audience is so full of small, medium enterprise. Like, we really cater to the small group of food producers, food manufacturers, brokers, brands, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you're like in the wheelhouse.
Perfect. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So who I am? I'm Tanguy. I'm Tanguy Etoga, and I'm the founder and CEO of Normex. How I got to the food industry, I'm passionate about the food industry, right? But I'm going to explain why I say I'm passionate. It's not just a passion out of the blue. It goes back way, way, way back when I was about 8, 9 years old. Okay, and I'm from Cameroon originally. I was born and raised in Cameroon, and I came do my university here in Quebec, in actually Laval University, food safety. And I was having mango. I remember that vividly. I was having mango with my father. He's still alive today. And in Cameroon, you have 2 seasons: one dry and one rainy season. Mango are only at the rainy season, and it was so very good mango. And then I said, you know what, Daddy? If we could have this mango the whole year, that would be amazing. He looked at me, Kenny Field, and he said, well, maybe you're going to be the first one to find the formula to have mango all year long, because we only have mango for a month out of the whole year. So I was only 8, 9, and I've had that in my whole life, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to find that formula. And when I went to college, and I was looking for a program that does things about food, right? So that's why I end up finding something in food safety, and I did my undergraduate studies in food science and technology. Now I know how to preserve mango, of course, right? Everybody does now. And then I went on to doing my business degree, operations management at McGill, and I just started working my career and operations management, food safety management. And I started my consulting business, because I'm a food safety consultant, in 2011. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And I've hired many consultants. We are a team of consultants working with us, implementing food safety across Canada and also the States. Now, how did I end up doing technology? Because whenever we're doing technology, we were doing implementation in all of these small to medium-sized organizations that wanted to have a food safety standard. You have a lot of requirements, a lot of them, and they have to use a lot of paperwork. And they were challenging us, you know what, find us a solution. There's too much paperwork, just too many paperwork. And that's how we came up in 2018 with that idea of automating all the food safety tasks through a software called Normex. So that's the whole story about who I am and what we do.
Wow. So at the time that you do this, like that's still heavy paper. That's only 7 years ago. Like it was still that heavy paper focused?
Absolutely. It was still heavy paper. The food, and that's something about the food industry, Kenny. The food industry is almost all the time the last one to transition in anything. Right?
You're busy making food.
Yeah, exactly. We're basically making food. You have finance. They always already transition with accounting softwares.
Yeah.
Electronic. Aviation. They all have software. But the food industry, we like our paperwork until it's very expensive to run the operations, right?
Right.
And we're seeing that is now very expensive to bring ingredients, so they have to find ways to streamline and to be efficient.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, retail in general, we are slow, right? Like, so even on the other side, I mean, listing forms, all that stuff, it's still paper.
It's archaic in a lot of ways.
Excel based, right? Like it's not.
Yeah.
Things that should be very automated are not automated at all, right? Like we duplicate and reduplicate fields, right?
Yeah.
Which generates nothing but errors, right? Like, so I actually
and then we digitize and we still put it on paper.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
right? You can't seem to get off the paper thing, right?
Just get electronic paper or paper, but it's not.
It's just it's amazing. It's interesting at the same time. When we do implementation, we like to do case studies at the same time, and we ask them a lot of questions. And I remember one of the clients that is still a client today, when they responded to the question about what they do with the paperwork, they print the paperwork, they do the record. After doing the record, they have to file. Now, how do they file? They're going to scan, right? And then put that in some, Dropbox. But imagine that they have to do that every day, multiple times a day, times how many employees working on the same task. You just, when we start counting the inefficiencies and where they lose money, at the end of the day, they can save about 3 hours just stopping to do all that, just click on buttons, right? So, and we like to tell them, just imagine in accounting, right? When you do your tax, even that your tax, you have to do everything with pen and paper. You know how long it's going to take? Right now, we take everything for granted, right? You just go on a computer, file your tax, or do your accounting on your, QuickBooks. It's fast. But if you have to do it on a piece of paper with pen, this is going to take a long time. So it's the same thing for food safety now.
And I guess the reverse is fine. If you can digitize, and then if you have to have paper copy, because I assume a lot of it is done because if government or agencies come in, it's a lot easier a lot of times to go to a filing cabinet, I'm assuming, grab a file, and you just rifle through. I'm assuming that's why we continue to do this. I don't know why, but I'm assuming that's got to be the answer, is that.
Are you ready for this?
I can hardly wait.
Are you ready for the answer? Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story, okay? Then you're gonna see the analogy. I'm a storyteller, by the way.
Let's go.
So, my grandmother, okay. Let's say, for example, my mother, she told me, hey, you know what? This is how you bake the cake. When you bake the cake, you have to remove the top and then put that in the oven. I said, oh, wow, why do I need to remove the top of the cake? The top is good to eat. She said, no. That's exactly how my mother taught me. You have to do it so it's going to be good. So we do it. And then we go ask the mother, why do we have to remove the topping? Why? She said, well, you know what? That's exactly how my mother told me, because it's going to be good. Then we asked the grandma. The grandma said, you know what, my son or my grandson, because we had tiny oven at the time.
In the room.
So the whole cake didn't fit in. It's the same thing.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah, we do things. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
That's exactly what it is. Nobody knows. I specifically had a web, many webinars with CFIA agent, FDA agent, and they said, no, we never require them to do anything on paper. No, the only requirement is it legible? And it's not, you cannot manipulate the data. That's the only thing that they need, right? And with software now, you have that credibility. You can put some locks so you cannot manipulate.
Right.
Yeah.
Date stamp or whatever, right? So you can't screw it.
Date stamp, exactly. Now you can even sign on a PDF, date stamp, and then you lock it out. Yeah.
That's funny, the stupid things we do for so long for no reason, really, right?
Exactly. We get used to doing things, and we don't challenge why until COVID happens, because really it's the COVID that unlocked the whole thing. Before COVID, the growth was slow but steady, and then once the COVID hit, everybody realized, hey, we can do so many things remotely, so many things, right? And then that was one of them, and then it just the growth just went crazy. Yeah.
So, food safety quality management, I think for users, let's make it real. Make it real, because I think that's where, because lots of descriptions, around automation and stuff like that tend to gloss over the top. So when I'm worried about food safety or quality management, is this the process of which you're checking line production, or you're checking temperatures and products, things like that, and then you've got to be recording on a regular basis, right? Is that kind of the sort of thing that you are helping to automate, or maybe give us kind of a level down?
Are you creating process and saying this is the SOP on how to do it so you don't have problems, or what do you do, I guess?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's about compliance, right? And compliance with any standard. One aspect can be the government standard, like FDA or USDA, CFIA, etc. And they have some requirement that they want the whole industry to meet. Right. And those requirements are in the form of preventive control plans, for example, which have procedures, and then record, exactly the ones that you just mentioned, Phil. It can be temperature check, it can be a weight check, it can be a pH, any check, any process check, inspection of sanitation or building, things like that. They try to meet all these requirements right now using paperwork. It's really tough because all these requirements have specific frequencies. You have some of them have daily frequencies, weekly, monthly. So they use 10,000 tools in order to remember what they have to check today. So with the software, what we do is we have all those requirements embedded into the software, whether it's government or private sector, because we also have a requirement for private sectors, right? You have specific. I'm sure you heard of ISO 9001, right? That's quality. So there are specific requirements for food safety. It's called HACCP, or another one's called GFSI, and then you have many sub elements there. And what we do is we will embed all these requirements. So the clients come to us and say, "Hey, HACCP, for example, and I want to automate my tasks." So we take everything that it does right now in terms of requirement, and then we put that in the software. So the employees come in the morning, they just have the cell phone, the tablet, or the computer. They click on a button, then they have the list of everything they need to do. They just click on the list, the module appears with all the checklists that they need to validate for the day. So at the end of the day, yes, it speeds up the process for them because they don't need to manage the documentation, but they have to do the work, right? The system will not do the work for them. It's an assistant.
So Tanguy, would you come in? So let's say I have a manufacturing plant, small one. Would you come in and say, okay, run me through your day, through your week. What do you do? So I would tell you, this is how I receive stuff. This is how I put things away. When we do this, this is the process I would use. And then from there, you would help me develop better SOP, or would you just put it into a system so that I have access to? Are you doing like a full service kind of thing? Like helping me actually get to a point where I don't do it your way because it doesn't make sense. This is how you do it?
Exactly. We're going to do two ways. We're going to do both things, right? Because on one end, you have the compliance aspect. You have to meet the requirement, okay?
Right.
That's we call that the minimum.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, you have what's best for you in terms of, okay, I have to do this minimum, but is there a better way of doing that minimum, right?
Right.
So the better way is what we're going to bring to the table. We're going to say, for example, instead of doing it this way, you're going to do it that way. Not only you're going to have the same result, but you're going to use less resources in order to get
efficiencies.
Exactly, on the efficiencies. We do have many case studies like that. One in California, for example, that's an ice cream company, 60 employees and 5 employees in quality. And they said, okay, well, we have 3 employees that wants to go in operation, but we have so much work in quality that we cannot let them go in operation. So is there a way that we can streamline everything so only 3 employees handle the quality aspect? So when we introduced Normex, we look at all the processes. They realized that with the aid of, because we embedded also AI within the system, IoT, that's one of them as well. Embedded all that. When I say IoT, that's Internet of
Things.
Exactly, for the audience. And they have sensors that they can put in cold rooms, and the temperature is taken automatically for them. So they save time here and there. And after 3 months, they came back and they said, you know what? Those 3 employees are now in operations because we were able to streamline and then be more efficient. Now they have exactly what they wanted to have working in production. Yeah. Wow. So those are the things that we're able to do along with meeting the requirement of the standard.
Right. And the reason I'm asking, because there's a lot of people may say, listen, you know what? We don't do a lot of complicated things. So the quality or the worry about, for lack of a better, like a contamination or something like that is very low risk.
Yes.
But they may not understand that maybe the way they do things from the point of ordering, receiving, handling may cause, I'm asking almost a question, like may
Yes.
cause some disruption down the road where you can increase risk of issues. So like it's like safety could be not just about physically making, but maybe how you do all the other stuff, I would guess, right?
You're 100% correct, Kenny, 100%. Because they may have, we work with companies with 2 employees, 1, 2, that's it.
Oh,
Right?
wow. Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes, because they're small, they think they have no risk until they start implementing a food safety system. So when they're only 1 employee or 500 employees, they have to go about the risk assessment, right? It's the process that determines the risk. It's not the number of employees or the size of the company. Now, what happens is the smaller the company is, the less resources they have to maintain a food safety program. And that's actually one of the reasons that we targeted small to medium size, because that's where the need is, right? Large companies, they have tons and tons of quality management teams. They can handle all that. But small teams, well, in Canada, there are about 10,000 food processors, right? A little bit below that. And can you imagine, about 90% are less than 100 employees, right? That's a lot of companies.
A lot of issues up there.
And then if you sample all these, you're going to realize that most of them, they don't even have a quality department because they don't have the resources. Maybe the ones, maybe the 50 employees and up will have it, but a lot of them do not have it because they don't have the budget for it. So those are the ones that are actually, they really need this type of system. So we
But if they
target
don't have the budget, if they don't have the budget, how do they go about? I think that's what I guess, because I know a lot of those types of people, right?
Right.
Where they're, let's say they're doing things and they're doing things well, but they're not HACCP or SQF or whatever it is. And the fear is the money that's getting involved. And a lot of times if I talk to people, and I know Phil probably does too, is that we'll basically say, listen, the cost that you're not spending might be insignificant compared to the cost you're going to end up with if you end up with a problem.
Yes.
So like sometimes you got to weigh out the risk and reward, because the risk could bury you, where to get things done properly would be that. So the thing would be is like, how do you get people because if I'm thinking, oh my God, it's going to cost me $100,000, I don't have the money. I'm assuming it doesn't necessarily have to cost 100,000. It could be whatever number. But how do they get from the fear of getting to someone like you and saying, listen, at bare minimum, get me to at least I'm safe so that I protect myself as well as my customers and ultimately the end customer.
Yes, absolutely. So we came up with the reasonable offer for that range, right, from 0 to about 100 employees. So the offer is very reasonable for them. Now, when we cross that line, it always depends on the size of the company, of course. So and something that we realize also with small to medium size, it's not what I think the human brain actually works that way. It's not what you gain. If you tell someone, if you buy this, you're going to gain this, the person will not react the same way as if you tell him, if you don't buy this, you're going to lose this.
Right.
You see what I mean? So people will tend to react more if they lose something.
Yeah, it's fear.
Rather than if they gain, exactly, it's fear. And you have that aspect on the standard, right? When they go on standard, when they maintain their food safety program, the standard will tell them exactly what they will lose. If they don't respect the standard, if they don't follow all the requirements, they can lose the license, whether it's a CFA license, they can use the FDA license. Some of them cannot even import, export. Some of them cannot even sell outside of the province.
Right.
Just because they don't comply. Right. So compliance, it's here to stay, right? No matter we like it or not, it's here to stay. Now, the question is, do they really, really want to expand? And what we've heard so far is yes, they want to expand. And the way we come to this meeting is we show them, a more efficient way to expand without, breaking the bank.
Does do your phone calls go up when recalls happen?
I can imagine that's when it's someone panics.
I gotta imagine, because that's that moment, right? Because everyone says can't happen to me, and then when they start issuing like, hey, so you need to return that spinach because it's got E. coli, or
Yeah.
whatever.
You found
is
lactose in your
recall,
non-lactose thing, or
those
Exactly.
must be moments that people are like, hey, Tanguy, listen,
I've
how
seen
quick
many
can you
people
get
that
to my
stress.
plan, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
No, it's something. No food processor want to go through a recall. It's so stressful.
for sure.
Because especially if they're on the federal license, because they will have the CFIA or the FDA at their door, making sure they recall everything.
And we'll be right back.
Hey guys, a little mid-roll call out for our special guests, or special supporters, I should say, of the podcast. Phil and I would love to acknowledge LeBeau Excel Sales and Marketing, our friends Matt and his team. They're an amazing, award-winning Canadian brokerage. They represent top brands in both the conventional and the natural channels, and all sub-channels within. So they do food, they do drug, they do grocery, they do independent, they do natural. Like, these guys are everywhere, and they've been doing it for a long time. Awesome people, really great to work with. And you can feel really, really comfortable using them. Doesn't matter the size of the retailer. These are just classy people, class acts.
They've got a national team, a team that has really deep knowledge of all sorts of things, certifications. They understand gluten-free, organic, non-GMO, vegan, supplements, and HABA. LeBeau Excel, really brings meaningful value to both retailers and category managers. That's important when you're looking for a brokerage.
Just a really well-rounded group. They do everything from food to HABA, which you really don't find a lot of these days out there. You don't find groups that can actually manage all those sides. So I just really, really cool people, and they just do all the cool categories across conventional and super strong in natural health. Super strong.
I think the other thing about this team that's kind of cool is when you've got such deep knowledge, in retail channels and segments and subsegments. One of the other things that makes them an award-winning team is they don't rest there. They are into they've invested heavily, and they're into technology as well. And obviously now we don't go anywhere without talking about AI. But these guys have spent a lot of time integrating technology, AI, scan data they buy. They pair it with advanced reporting tools, so they're able to give you smarter insights and a strategic edge in the market. They're making data-based decisions, and they can come to you with recommendations based on that data. So, you're getting on one side a really experienced team that understands the industries that you got to get into, and then that team is now using data, and lots of data, automation, AI, to help you make, stronger decisions. So a really strong brokerage that you should be thinking about if you're looking for brokerage. If you want to find out more, head to lebeauexcel.com. That's LEBEAUEXCEL.com, and talk to the team, see if you're a fit. And now back to the podcast.
So making sure means they have to demonstrate that they're able to trace everything. It's not just
even know where it is.
Exactly. You see my point. So they have to know exactly, okay, I produced this quantity of this lot number, and I ship one here, two there. So they have to record that somewhere. So the more it goes, the more they realize paperwork, it's really tough to maintain. Unless it's a very micro company with one client, it's easy, right?
Right.
If they scale a little bit, that's where they realize, hey, we need to have something in place to help us.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like some of the things that are really interesting to me too is we do some of that, and you feel like one of those connecting points as well as just being able to show people where they can save some time as well, right? Because sometimes this happens to Kenny and I all the time, is people will ask us weird things, but because they don't know what they don't know, right?
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
do things the way they do it. And like your cake example, you
Yeah.
cut the top off and you do it because that's the way you do it. And then,
You can't cook it otherwise.
but when you stop and ask, or somebody comes along and goes, listen, we don't do that anymore. Our ovens are nice and big. Like you can actually stack two cakes,
two of them in there if you
on
want.
top of each
Exactly.
other. You'll be fine, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like that is, like your example about IoT and the freezer.
Yeah.
I had a job. It wasn't a food job. One of my summer jobs was working in an oil refinery.
Mm-hmm.
As that kid, one of my jobs every hour before they had kind of automation on the lines, like all these PLC units,
Right.
my job was to walk out to 35 points of contact where they, it was an oil refinery. So, I had to make sure, the diesel tank was at a certain temperature. So it kept it from, doing something different, the jet fuel, and so all I did was walk around all day with a clipboard, writing down what the temperature was at a certain time of day, right? Which is, when you talk about it, I feel like this is the same thing that happens in food plants, right? It's like, someone's walking around going, listen, like, if I'm making bread, yeast is a certain temperature, or the vats are a certain temperature. And, if I'm drying pasta, it needs to be a certain temperature, right? So I feel
water can't boil. The water needs to be 190, not 210 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That's not even a long time ago. It's just a couple of years ago. So the technology goes so fast. And that's what we've seen also. That's what we decided. We actually decided to go to IoT only 2.5 years ago, because we saw that there was a need there as well. There are some plants that have, 10 fridge, two freezers, and they have to do that twice a day, sometimes more than that. And they have someone that is being paid to do just that, right? Because it takes the temperature, it records, and if there's any non-conformity, he will raise the alarm. And that person now, we can see that the person can be very used.
Right.
Because when you put the sensor in the cold room, it takes the temperature, and then it will send an alert to anybody that needs to be alerted.
But also immediately. If I go in and measure now, and 2 minutes later something goes sideways, and I don't measure in 8 hours, I may lose everything.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the goal, because a condenser can blow, right? And then the temperature goes up. Right? Anything can happen during the weekend. Breaker goes, and you can have many things that goes, that goes sideways. So that's a huge innovation on the food in the food industry now. There used to be a sensor that were very, very expensive, because they have to run wires across the whole plant. It's not the case anymore. We have a plant that they have a legacy system, and it costs about $80,000 the system to install. Now you can have a sensor for $200, and a very functioning sensor with the exact same specification does the same thing, $200, right? So
that's crazy.
Yeah. You just need to change the battery once a year, and that's it.
Let's say for those who might be listening, right? It's not live. Like when this goes out, let's say someone's stuck with us for the first 35 minutes and says, you know what, that sounds like a really important thing. And I'm happy that Tanguy's out there doing this. I don't really know if I really need it at this point. Like, in your opinion, like if you were to, are there sort of like a top 3, top 5 things that people don't think are triggers, but really when you hear it, you think, guys, you so need this. Like, it's not that you are well past needing it, but I may look and think, well, nah, that didn't really sound that big a deal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that a question that's answerable?
It does. Absolutely. It does make sense. I always think about the Apple. Who needs Apple, right? Nobody. So what he did, Steve Jobs, is he created a product without even asking us if we need that. But when we put that product in our hand, we realized, oh my goodness, we needed that, and we didn't even know. We didn't know that, right? We didn't know that we needed to be connected. We didn't know that we need to have something that can link us to the world, to someone who is maybe 10,000 kilometers away, etc., and so on, right? So it's the same thing here. So you have, early adopters that they'll always be informed about everything, right? Those are the ones that will come forward and say, yes, I do need this because I have this client. I have maybe Costco that I know that will ask me this. I have Sobeys, etc. You have other ones that don't know that they need it because they just try to sell, right? They just try to sell and they do whatever they can. They do their best. Right. Now, while doing their best, they're not expert at two things. They're not expert at food safety. They don't know what food safety is and what it involves, right? What kind of resources it involves. So when we explain them, they realize that it's a little bit more complex than what they anticipated. And then two, they don't know how much it costs, right? That's the the other side. So how much it costs, meaning not having automation, how much they're spending right now. So when we discuss all that, they realize. We discussed with clients. I was talking about the one in California that says, hey, after moving those 3 employees where they wanted to be in operation, we save after 6 months, we save about $60,000, just 6 months. That means we were spending $60,000 every 6 months.
And that's the cost side. You don't know what you've done for maybe revenue generation because you've taken someone out of a function or department that is important but doesn't generate revenue, and maybe put them in a spot where it's actually facilitated revenue generation, profit generation, or whatever, right?
Exactly. And especially now we are in the stage, with the tariffs here and there, with that uncertainty, we don't know what's going on. But what we do know is we have some kind of inflation. To bring the product in, it costs a little bit more. So they have to find ways to, to streamline the operations, right? And then survive. Yeah. So one other thing is we realize also, because we introduced AI within Normex. So some people jumped right away, but some people ask questions about AI. There's still that debate about, hey, is it good, right? But we tend to tell them it's irrelevant, right? Because if you don't use AI, you're going to be replaced by someone who does. So you might as well use it, right? You might as well use it because we've seen that happening as we go. It's really there. We used to hire translators. Now we don't. It's there. I mean, there's nothing that we can do about it. People are just using AI for everything now, and it enhances the work of everybody. So yeah, so that's something that we have to consider.
So we're huge fans of AI. We talk about it a lot. We use it a lot. In my opinion, I actually think that this is the best use of AI, right? Because one of the problems with AI is everybody likes to talk about it like up here somewhere, right? It makes life easier. It can shine your shoes and it can hands, but no one ever shows you how to use it. And I feel like when you have, like you're trying to make manufacturing simpler, and you're also trying to make it more efficient, right? Reduce the number of landmines. And so I feel like it's a really practical situation to watch you and your company apply AI, right? Because I think for an operator, this is the easiest way to learn a moment that it's practical. Do you know what I mean? Like, because there's lots of consultants, right? Like they're all over LinkedIn. They're like, oh, you can plug this in and make it more efficient. Everyone's like, I got that. But nobody wants to show me a single thing.
Practicality.
Right? Like, so exactly how do I do it? What modules do I use? What things? Watching you guys do it is probably a much easier, okay, got it. So what do you guys use it for? What will it incorporate in my life, right? Like I think it's a very smart way to do it. Like it's the right thing to do, right? So
thank you. And there's that one thing in food safety called CAPA, meaning corrective action, preventive action, right? And it's very difficult, to be honest, even for professionals. When you have an issue, you have to do that process, and especially when you have to think about it. We've been doing that for 20 years, but it's difficult. Now, when we introduced AI, it made our lives so much easier. And then we say, you know what? I'm sure it's going to make the industry's life even much more easier because they have an issue. Okay, the roof is leaking. Boom, they take that, they plug that into our AI model. And then the system, it does the process with them and for them even, right? And then they realize, they see that, they say, oh, you know what? It makes sense, right?
Well,
So the thing that was taking, I don't know, maybe half an hour or 2 hours to do, it takes now 5 seconds. And then they have to review, of course. And if they agree, boom, they go ahead and they continue. So
I think that's where Phil and I laugh at people. I think that's the trick to AI is we always tell people, you know, the 10% of thinking of what you're asking it to do is yours.
yeah,
Then you let it do the 80% of the shit that you don't want to do.
that's
It's
it.
like, you know, you don't get them to, you know, like you get it to wash dishes, not cook dinner. Like you do the dinner,
Yeah,
but let it do all the shit that
exactly.
you don't want to do.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
last 10% is you just verify.
yes,
Did I ask the right question to get me the right answer? Because you should be able to see it. And at
right.
that point, then it's a list, like you said, then it's a roof leak. Here's the 15 things you do.
Mm,
Now, you may be an expert and know there's actually 16, but you
yes,
rattled off for the people like me who don't know there's even one.
exactly,
Give me a chance to
exactly.
go do it quick. That's what I want. I don't want to waste time
Yes, and
with
that's
stuff
the
that I don't
goal.
want to waste time with,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
guess.
Because you're going to talk about, a company that has 10, 15 employee. Hey, you have to do a 5 why process. You know what? What is that? I don't
What does
have
that mean?
time, but exactly. So, and then when you have something like that, well, it will do that for you. And then you review. And most of the time when they review, they say, you know what? It makes sense. And we can even add something else because now they have a
Exactly.
guideline.
Exactly. We actually do over and above. Let's put it down so that we're always even better than what the minimum needs to be. We've already doing something great, whatever that
Yeah,
means. Interesting.
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
remember Kappa is a very apt kind of thing because I remember having to do a Kappa. One of the kind of big organizations I work for had a leaky roof.
Right.
Actually, exactly leaky roof, right? And I happen to be, it should have come to me, but I was in a strategic role at that point, and they said, "Can you fill this in?" I was like, "I don't know what is this thing," and they're like, "Oh, it's it's just corrective action and preventive," and I said, "Fix the roof,
Yeah.
check for leaks." Right.
Yeah.
And then I like literally sat there and looked at it for half an hour. And then I don't understand, guy. Like, and then when I handed it back, they're like, "Where's the rest of it?" I'm like, it's a leaky roof. Like, what
It's
do
a
you
leak.
guys want me to say? Like, I don't understand what the format, but there was like a
Go
lot
out
to
there,
when,
fix it.
right. I was like, I don't understand. Like, but it is, yeah, that's a great example. Actually.
Yeah. You just need to go up there and fix it.
Right.
What
Fix it. Fix it. Check if it leaks,
Yeah, exactly. And then when you go into the actual process, you're gonna know that you're gonna see that hey, it actually asks you to do some preventive action so it doesn't happen again.
Right.
So you have to have a process of doing that.
Yeah. It's so crazy. So crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
This is very cool. Okay, so you're doing this, and so you do this for food manufacturing.
Yes.
And then do you do it like you're kind of like, because when I go on the website, you do this for like all sorts of food, right? Because you've got some you've got people who actually manufacture, kind of like complex foods, and then you also have people who process, right? Like food processors, if you will. So meat processors, that sort of thing as well.
Yep, absolutely. We in about 14 different industry, about 14. The meat, the dairy, fruits and vegetable, we almost all of them, bakery industry. So we are across the board, and about 80% or 70% of our clients are food processors. And then you have the rest of them, the 30% are either wholesalers, retailers, even restaurants, because they also handle food.
Oh, so food service as well. So you do even that side.
Food service, exactly. Food service as well. Absolutely. Because the food service, they don't, they handle the food, so they are potential source of contamination, and they
Well,
have.
we know that. Think of how we've had E. coli in our country.
There you go.
Again, it's just sometimes simple rules
Yeah,
you just needed to follow, and maybe people just didn't know or just got lazy. Who knows what?
exactly. And they have to maintain the record. This is a requirement that they have to do. So same. When you go, for example, at a restaurant, you're going to find a piece of paper somewhere on the board, and when you go to the washrooms, they're going to say, okay, check, because they are actually doing cleaning every day. So these are actually part of food safety, and they have to maintain that. Now, at the end of the day, we don't know what they do with that. They're supposed to archive that, but it's paperwork. Now, anything can happen with paperwork, right? At some point, it's not even legible. So when we present this type of software, not only they can archive that and then retrieve that if they have a federal inspection or even municipal inspection, like really quick, and they can also check from remotely. Even if they're not on the site, they can always know what's going on. Some companies have multiple sites, so for some food processors. So imagine if they have to. We used to have some of them say we used to run across all our sites. The quality manager, 7 sites. Monday he's here, Tuesday he's there, Wednesday. Why? Because he needs to sit down in the office and then review the documentation. Yes, that's exactly the way they used to do it. Now they don't do that anymore. Well, most of them do not do that anymore because.
Well, if they work with you, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, with other people, they still do that.
Exactly. So that's what we're trying to push out there, so they don't do that anymore. They can just any process can happen at any site. They see that in real time. They just go in their account, they see what's going on, they can react to it. They can approve any specific task.
Oh, I like it. Wow.
No, this
is very cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
No, I love it. This is really great. Like I feel like this is something that
it's something we've never really talked about because we haven't had anybody on. So thank you, Candace, for BC Food and Beverage for the introduction, because I think that it's
quite honestly, we don't want to talk about it. Sorry, Tanguy, but we don't want to talk about it, right? Because sales marketing is more interesting most of the days. And then this is the one that we're all afraid of, actually. Right.
Also, the one you said before
that has repercussions for everything, right? Like, you miss a social media campaign, you miss it, right? But
you miss it.
You miss this. It's a recall. It's like bad things.
Potentially, you really hurt somebody.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we know that that's happened. There's recent examples where people die. Really, I know it sounds extreme, but. And again, I'm assuming every category's got different risk levels. If you're dealing dry product, it's different than with meats or whatever. So I'm assuming, clearly there's stuff, but
it's a big deal.
There's risk in everything, right?
Exactly.
Especially if it's ingestible. You just don't know.
You just don't know. Yeah, it's not sexy. To your point, Phil. Food safety is not sexy. But that's something that the food industry needs to work on and ensure that everything so they don't contaminate. Now you even see some trends now. So you have I always like to call them early adopters, because you have a lot of companies now that go forward and that drive the whole industry by saying food safety, it's actually in our strategy management level. So the CEO or the owner or whoever is in the leadership position, they advertise the mission of the company and they put food safety in it, which is a very good thing, right? And that's refreshing for the whole industry.
You
a couple of years ago, it used to be, in the back end. Yeah.
Well, you have to, right? Like, because it's every CEO's nightmare, right? Like, like how many times do you roll out the Tylenol example, right? Of like, guys, be transparent, it is the best in class once it's happened, but really what you want to do is go, it's not us, right? Like, it hasn't happened to us because we put the right things in place. So it never, it is never.
The idea is not to make the news.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's kind of the objective, right? Yeah. Again, you know what people are like, though? I think it's more what Phil said originally, is that, it's not going to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the prevailing, and then people put cost in front of it, which I understand, and I know, Tanguy, you too. There is a cost, but you got to
Absolutely.
sometimes weigh the cost out. If it's a $5,000 or $10,000 cost to get some level of assurance, it might be better than $1 million lawsuit and the closure of a company or someone perishing or whatever it is. It doesn't always have to be extreme, but it could be bad.
Yeah. Not only financially, but also the reputation of the company.
Reputation of the company could be.
I
mean, Tylenol took a hit for quite a while there.
Yep.
Maple Leaf, we weren't too sure. Maple Leaf seemed to come back because I think they did take it quite seriously. Shit happens, but it's what you do after to clear it up.
But those guys, like in both cases, like you're talking about tier 1 operators that have, buckets and buckets. I'm not saying that it didn't cost them a lot of money or that, but they had buckets and buckets of money. Like you talk to a small SME, this bankrupts them, right? Like this is the, okay, I'm going to lean on liability insurance as far as I can. And we're closing down because that's the only other way that we're going to be able to cover this stuff, right? Like
that's the only option.
That's an end, right? Like you don't want that, right? So
and that reputation sticks with you for the next jobs or for the next things you're going to do. Like it's hard to shake.
Yeah,
it's very tough. Even if they want to, pivot and go somewhere else in the food industry, they're going to get noticed. People will know that. This is the company that actually contaminated.
Do they actually take things seriously? Do they?
Yeah.
Wow, I wasn't too sure if we could get a podcast out of this because I really know what we're going to talk about. That was really fascinating.
No, it was. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Where so if people want to find you, where do they like website or socials? What do they? Where do they go to find you, Tanguy?
So
they can go to Gatineau. He's
they can go. Thank you. You know what? Now you're on the list again.
Just saying.
So yes, they can go on our website normex.ca, or they can write up directly info@normex.ca, normex.ca. We have a LinkedIn page, Normex there. We do a lot of social media posting. We do, even educational videos on a weekly basis. I'm a food safety consultant, so I love to do it. Right?
Okay.
So with our team, and we touch on any subject in food safety.
Okay.
So
that's awesome.
They can follow up and they can write us if they need to discuss.
I love it.
That's awesome. And countrywide, so someone's BC, Newfoundland, doesn't matter. You guys are
absolutely
everywhere.
Yeah. That's even something that I should have said at the beginning. We're everywhere. So right now we're already in 6 countries. Canada, USA, we're in UAE, Kenya, South Africa, and one more that I forget.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Food safety is a global issue. Right?
It's a worldwide thing. Right? We all eat.
Exactly. It's everywhere. Yeah. So.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Tanguy, thanks for doing this. We really
appreciate it. And hopefully we'll catch up to you at a show next time. Maybe we can have a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever and sit down and chat.
That would be amazing.
I'll come find you. My son lives in Ottawa, so I'll
as soon as you come here, let me know. We're gonna go grab a bite. Yeah, definitely.
Food. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tanguy.
Thank you. I really appreciate
your time, my friend. Phil, you stick around. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
That's pretty cool, Like I honestly, I wasn't sure if we could pull a podcast because I wasn't sure what we talk about.
Yeah.
But I guess if you think about it, you could talk about food safety for days. But
it's just, he said it too, right? It's not sexy.
No, it's not. But it's
it's highly essential, right? Like highly, highly essential.
Yeah, you think, right? I mean, not very good for the company if you're out there and shit goes sideways.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed that. That was good. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes. Very cool.
Awesome.
That's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.